Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. I don't know about you lot, but as Mondays go, the feeling today is about as good as it absolutely gets. Chelsea beat West Ham last night by 5-0. I had a few drinks yesterday and it was thoroughly enjoyable to see Chelsea for the second time in 3 days beat a London rival, keep a clean sheet and genuinely look like a proper football team. I'm going to take a little look today at Mauricio Pochettino's comments because Poch has come out and said some interesting things after the game yesterday. We're going to get into that. We're also going to talk about the Victor Osimhen Chelsea approach, which we didn't get a chance to talk about at the end of last week because there was just so much Chelsea football to be played on the field. Also, congratulations to the Chelsea women's who won 8-0 yesterday as well. 13-0 aggregate scoreline for the men and the women's team. What a day for Chelsea Football Club. So, Pochettino explains why it took time to use Cucurella as inverted left back and change tactics. To evolve tactically, you first of all need to fix problems. You can't evolve tactically if you are not competitive, if you don't have the legs to move or be aggressive. You also need to build the house step by step. I think now we are in a moment where the team have realised that to compete is different from to play football. They had to understand how we need to compete in the Premier League. Obviously, for a young team, you need to set and apply the principles. After that, we have the capacity and the experience to evolve in different ways in the game. Because we have already learnt a lot about how to compete and you can see now a different situation. The way that I'm reading into this from Pochettino is that Chelsea kind of needed the hidings that we've had this season. We needed to get battered at home to Wolves. We needed to suffer the way that we did at the end of the game against Brentford and get humiliated by Arsenal. Because I think all of a sudden now, the players realised after that Arsenal defeat that when you're playing for a team like Chelsea Football Club, which again, when I look at this Pochettino quote, I'll put it back up on the screen. Pochettino all season long has been talking about how these players need to kind of feel and understand what it is to be Chelsea players. There are standards that this club have that they just weren't meeting. And a lot of the time, I think maybe the pressure of these kind of comments when they're so young, they're still figuring things out, they're still getting to know their teammates. I think throughout the majority of this season, it's probably got the better of so many of these Chelsea players. But now that we've actually started to see tactical strategy, Chelsea have gone back to what we saw in pre-season, which is a 3-2 build-up when in possession, when we're going forward. Conor Gallager gets himself a lot more forward. Cole Palmer kind of drifts over with Noni Madueke and then drifts back inside, leaving Madueke to isolate the fullback. Chelsea still have a certain couple of issues. I'm not going to lie. The issues that we have are that the injuries that we've got is something that I don't expect to just be like, new season, fixed. I also think that we have a serious issue on the left-hand side of the midfield. I think Mudryk he's not quite at the level that we need him to be at, whether that means that Chelsea make a signing, whether we keep giving Mudryk a go, maybe we do bring in a striker that we're going to talk about at the end of this video. Jackson potentially moves over to the left. I don't know what it's going to be, but I do think Mudryk is an issue. And I think Pochettino now, what we're seeing is the ability to once again, having been humbled on countless occasions this season, I think the players finally understand what it is to be Chelsea players. The pressure that has come onto Pochettino and so many of these players have been so heavily critiqued and criticised. And to be fair, I absolutely think a lot of it has been valid. I think on countless occasions this season, we can look at Chelsea and be like, is there any effort there? Is there any cohesion? You look at the players and you're like, do these guys even like one another? And all of a sudden, it just seems to have clicked. And yesterday, when you look at Noni Madueke squaring the ball to Nicholas Jackson, where just 4 weeks ago, these two players were literally almost having a fight on the field because they both wanted to take a penalty off of Cole Palmer. All of a sudden, I genuinely think there have been too many high-profile moments this season where the manager has come under so much scrutiny and the players really do seem to like Pochettino. So I think there is an element here that they're playing to fight for Pochettino to keep his job. And there's also a strong element that the standards that Chelsea have absolutely need to be better than what we've seen all season. So, when we look at that win yesterday against West Ham, Cucurella moving into that left central midfield position to create that build-up overload for Chelsea. It's fantastic. And I think Pochettino, with this quote, is absolutely spot on. You don't just build a home in a day. And I think as much as it sounds hypocritical of me to be like, we don't just build a home in a day, I've wanted Pochettino gone. It's seen too many poor results. And I didn't see the players fighting for him. I didn't see enough quality. When we are starting to play some good football, when we are starting to see actual tactics on a football field, I know that's like a really super top-end line, but we didn't see that all season, which is why it was absolutely warranted a few weeks ago for people to be saying, look, Pochettino is out of his depth. Yes, Pochettino has always backed himself, and he's always come out and said to us, look, this isn't going to be just like a quick miracle fix. We have got to spend time. And I genuinely think now, I said to you guys, you'd have to win all of the last games for me to be sure that the right thing to do is keep him. But having genuinely yesterday, the fans inside Stamford Bridge, you can feel it. Something has clicked. Something has turned. And it's all positive at Chelsea right now. The performances have been absolutely fantastic. The results, absolutely magnificent. So, massive credit to Mauricio Pochettino. There are also players now coming back from injury. You saw Nkunku play yesterday, Gusto, Disasi. There's going to be, I think, 3 really entertaining, exciting final matches this season for Chelsea. Forest away, that's going to be really tough. I'd argue the toughest of the lot. Then we got Brighton away. Then we have got Bournemouth at home on the final day of the season, which should be a massive goodbye, farewell to Thiago Silva. But right now, Pochettino is doing a brilliant job. The turn of fortunes absolutely deserves the praise. So, let's move into the Chelsea news. We're going to begin with a story here. Fabrizio Romano reports Chelsea have asked for salary conditions for Tosin Adarabioyo. And he also says to keep an eye on them and Newcastle. Tosin Adarabioyo currently plays for Fulham. He's a free agent in the summer. Premier League experience. I think he's a decent centre-back. For a free agent, I don't necessarily think that Chelsea need to keep Trevoh Chalobah. I don't care what anybody says. Chalobah has done more than enough. Gallagher's done more than enough. Both of these players absolutely need to remain Chelsea players next season. So, if we're talking about backup for Thiago Silva, who's going to be leaving, he's going back to Fluminense this summer, then I do think a free agent signing with a Premier League experienced player would not be the worst shout for Chelsea. So, keep an eye on this one. We've obviously going to have Wesley Fofana coming back too. And if you get a decent bargain with a free agent as centre-back, keep Trevoh Chalobah, then Chelsea will have money to spend in other areas across the field, which we're going to move to talk about in a second. But the second story, Omari Hutchinson on his future to be discussed with Chelsea. I hope to stay at Ipswich Town also next season. We'll see my agent and the manager. I am speechless. It's the best loan I could have ever imagined. Omari Hutchinson is a big reason why Ipswich Town have gone up. It's an absolutely phenomenal story. Back-to-back promotions for Ipswich. And towards the end of this season, Omari Hutchinson's coming up and scoring so many big goals. Such quality goals as well from outside the area. The audacity to just give it a go. It's unbelievable to see. Omari Hutchinson has always been a talented, quality player, even from the youth days at Arsenal. Chelsea have themselves a gem here, and I do think the right move would be to see him stay at Ipswich, give himself the best chance to get Premier League experience playing every single week, instead of being stifled at Chelsea. Let's be honest, we have got so many flipping wingers that, we've got Kendry Pires coming in, we've got Palmer on the right, Madueke on the right, Angelo Gabriel. There's almost too many. You've got Nkunku, Jackson, Mudryk. Like, all of these players are kind of still figuring out their positions. With Hutchinson playing the way that he is, I just think he'd be another name and another person that Poch would have to try and fit minutes into, or would just get lost within the squad. So credit to Hutchinson. I think it would be great to have a look at him at pre-season, but I'd also say get him back to Ipswich, give him another run. Now, the big story of the end of last week that came and broke from Di Marzio. Chelsea had first contact with Napoli for Victor Osimhen with the possibility of a first offer. 80 to 90 million euros. Romelu Lukaku would also go to Napoli in a player plus cash exchange, as well as a young player. Look, top end right now. Going to do a video on this week because I think we need to talk again about Nicholas Jackson. We need to talk again about Noni, about Nkunku, and about Mudryk, the Chelsea front line. Victor Osimhen, I'm going to ask a question, and I want to know your thoughts here in the comments because I'm going to go through the comments and engage with them in this video that I do later this week. Do Chelsea need Victor Osimhen? It's a question. I'm not going to give my answer because I really want to go into it in a lot more depth and detail and study Nicholas Jackson a little bit more. But when we look at this, 80 to 90 million euros plus Lukaku and a young player, I don't know who it will probably be. My guess would be Cesare Casadei, young Italian midfielder, send him to Napoli. I think 80 to 90 million and Lukaku and a young player, it is astronomical kinds of money. And that is why I asked the question, do Chelsea actually need Victor Osimhen? But Chelsea have made an approach. This comes from Di Marzio, who are quite a reputable source in Italian football. So this could be huge. I do still think that Chelsea would be better off with another striker at the club so that we don't necessarily have to rely on Nicholas Jackson, whose finishing has been questionable at times this season. Let him develop a bit more. And I also think, I've said already, I'm not convinced about Mudryk. Nicholas Jackson on the left, Victor Osimhen through the middle, Cole Palmer and Madueke behind him, Christopher Nkunku as well. Like, this is getting serious now, boys, isn't it? Let me know what your thoughts are on this in the comments down below. And I will say, I know it's funny how things can change very quickly in football, but what a Monday feeling this is. Come on, you Blues.